Okay, we are on. Good morning, everyone. Uh,
Good morning.
those that are joining us, yeah, those that are joining us on other platforms except Zoom. Apologies, we've been struggling this morning with connectivity. Yes, as this is the day that the Lord has made for us to be glad and rejoice in it. We all know that on Thursday, we all are looking forward to coming together in this platform, really to share issues that are affecting us as a nation. And the Freedom Thursday partners continuously so, they have been consistent every Thursday to bring the issues on the agenda. And those that wants to be escalated, where possible, we engage, we send them to say, these were the resolutions from the Freedom Thursday team, and we're hoping that government and whoever will take them into consideration. As we all know, it's our practice. It's a practice in this platform that before we start anything, we invite the Lord to guide us, the one that has woken us up this morning to be even sitting in this fashion, to be the one guiding us, the Holy Spirit being the one guiding us. Now, for the month of June, towards the end, June and July, I think when we were having our quarter prayer, National Day of Prayer for Freedom Thursdays, I again went back, and I can say I again, but I think the Holy Spirit guided me back to the Dr. Frost Facebook, not Facebook, WhatsApp group. And this WhatsApp group for us, it was a WhatsApp group that we joined, that people sent to us when we were in the thick of COVID in the country. And since then, we
Osmabato, what happened? Osmabato? Osmabato, I've lost you. What is happening?
I've also lost here.
Can you tell me until when this meeting going to take place?
It's about 1 o'clock, but we normally have it. You can take it on the phone and listen to it. Okay, Josh, I'm trying to get hold of him now. Okay, I think it's a problem with this Trump issue. Thanks. We lost you there. Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay. Judge is rejoining. Thanks. Okay, thanks.
I'm not all right today.
Because now I'm joined on the phone. I can't even read my I can't read the prayers anymore. So I think we can let like you were saying Tiamo can pray. We can let Tiamo pray.
Tiama, can let us pray. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Tiama, can
because
let us pray. Over to you, Tiama. Thanks. Okay, you may start, Tiama.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for the gift of life. We invite you to this meeting. We ask that you send your Holy Spirit upon each and every one of us as we deliberate on topics that are affecting our country. We pray for our leaders, Lord, that they may lead the country with dignity and honesty, that everyone may be included in the service delivery. We pray for those who are sick in hospital. We pray for their speedy recovery and their healing. We ask you this through Christ our Lord, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tiama. Okay, Osmabato, over to you. Thanks. Okay. Osmabato, over to you. Thank you.
I'm not all right today.
Okay, good morning there. Without wasting a time that I think we've been challenged with a number of network challenges today in the
okay,
world.
it's
Okay.
are you done?
Yeah, she's done. You can start doing the opening remarks, Osmabato. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no. I
Okay.
Shem. Today is one of those days, eh? It's really one of those days because it comes and go, it comes and go. So I'm not even sure if we are still live on YouTube because it has been out on and off and off. But I will start. I will start and eh? No, I'm reading from the laptop. Oh. Good morning to everyone who is with us this morning, those that are joining us on Zoom and those that are joining us on YouTube. I greet you all in the wonderful, wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I greet the men joining us here on this panel. I greet the men who will be watching these recordings after this session. For them, with deep respect, especially the Men Let's Talk movement, because you have really taken the baton of being the role models, you being the ones that are showing our nation what real men is all about. Today, we're coming together as a foundation, our partners, not as people who are here to scold men, but as people who have come to speak the truth about love. We're here because our communities need this type of dialogues. We need men, brothers, uncles, grandfathers, sons who will really be the men for the future that we're looking for. And as grandmothers, as mothers, as aunts and sisters, we need to rise into the fullness of the manhood that we are looking at. As a nation, we are living in a time where many boys are growing up without clear guidance of what healthy masculinity looks like. Some are learning manhood from social media, from peers who are also lost, or from environments that reward reckless behavior. We see young men pressured into having multiple partners as if that is the measure of respect. We see teenage girls infected with HIV because boys were never taught boundaries, accountability, or the courage to say no to harmful choices. We see sugar daddy culture normalized, turning relationships into transactions and stripping both men and women dignity. We hear this morning because as a foundation and our freedom partners, especially the Men Let's Talk movement, believe that African men are capable of much more. And the Men Let's Talk movement is, for us, is testimony to that. We are really calling men back to dignity that is found in how many partners you have. Dignity is not found in secrecy, in manipulation, or ego-driven choices. Dignity is found in self-respect, self-control, and in the ability to protect rather than harm. A dignified man is one who can say, I honor myself and others. I choose relationships that heal, not destroy. I hold my brothers accountable when they drift into harmful behavior. And also, I refuse to let ego cost someone their future. So this morning, we are calling men back to their purpose, the purpose to know that they have been called to be nurturers, they've been called to be protectors, they've been called to be leaders. That purpose is not accidental, but it is taught, it is modeled, and also it is lived. Our boys need men, they need fathers, grandfathers, uncles who show them that masculinity is not violence. It is not a sexual conquest. It is not emotional silence, but masculinity is responsibility, is gentleness, is courage, and truthfulness. However, I think that this is what our children miss. We need to speak the truth, and a painful truth, that we cannot continue hiding or whispering in corridors or behind polite language. Our teenage girls are not being infected with HIV by boys their age. The data, the clinics, the stories from families, they tell us the same thing. These infections are coming from older men who are often 10, 20, or even 30 years older than these girls. Men who are older than the girls' fathers, but they use money, they use gifts, high-flying lifestyles, and material pressure to exploit these children. This is not blesser culture. This is not sugar daddy culture. Let's name it correctly. It is exploitation, it is abuse, it is violation of our children. And it is costing our daughters their future. We must confront the toxic behavior where men believe that their money gives them access to young girls' bodies, where men think buying a cell phone, a weave, sneakers, or weekend outings or expensive bags gives them permission to harm these children, where men hide behind the language of providing because being a blesser is this thing of being provider while spreading HIV and destroying lives. This behavior is not masculinity. It is not culture. It is not love. It is violence wrapped in gifts and disguised as generosity. So when teenage girls have high HIV infection rates, while teenage boys do not, it tells us one thing as a nation. These girls are not sleeping with boys their age. They are being targeted by older men who should be protectors, men who should be mentors, men who should be role models, men who should be building the next generation, not destroying it. So I call to men in this room and those that are watching us on YouTube. I'm asking you as fathers, as brothers, as uncles, as elders to confront this behavior among men, not with silence, not with excuses, not with "it's none of my business." I'm asking you that wherever you are, to stand boldly and say to other men, this is not acceptable. Tell them this is not manhood. Tell them this is not how we treat children. And finally, this is not how we build a nation. Really, what we are asking as mothers, as aunts, as grandmothers, is for men to protect our daughters with the same strength you use to protect your own dignity. Let us leave this dialogue today with a commitment that sugar daddy behavior will no longer be normalized in our country. It will not be joked upon or celebrated. We want our brothers and uncles and grandfathers in this to commit that they will hold each other accountable, firmly, lovingly, and courageously. And we commit that no girl will lose her future because a grown man refused to control his ego, his desires, or his wallet. With that, I want to thank you, Greg, for opening this dialogue today. And as the convener of a Men Let's Talk, I'm now giving back to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mabacho. I think it's a very interesting topic that where we need to start looking into the bottom line of it. According to Dr. Dlomo, that once men use money and gifts to lure vulnerability young women into cross-generation relationships, these relationships increase the risk of HIV infections, teenage pregnancy, and school dropouts. Poverty and inequality makes many young women vulnerable to exploitation. He urged men to take responsibility and reject relationships and exploit young girls and young women. One of his strongest messages was, "Siapanzi sugar daddy and dream big. Leave the sugar daddy's lifestyle behind and dream big." Dr. Dlomo view wants that South Africans should focus on education, youth, and empowerment. But when you start looking at sugar daddy as a whole in South Africa, we talk a couple of billions being spent on individuals. Example, one minister rented a house in Sandton for a young lady at the age of 19 years at university. The house was 1.5 million. This minister is about 71 years of age. The point here is that he sleeps with the women as whenever he wants to sleep with her. No man goes there, no condom, nothing used. A famous mayor as well is doing exactly the same scenario in South Africa. One of the police generals who has just been arrested also got sugar daddy to a young girl at the University of Pretoria. The Women's League got a position paper on the issue of sugar daddies. The YCL also got a document on sugar daddies and a number of structures as well. When you start looking then to the capitalization of sugar daddies in the world, we're looking at an estimated economy of over 80 billion rands US dollars in the world. When it comes to the issue of sugar daddies, it's a big sector of spending. The vulnerability of young girls have become a big problem in society. Where are we today? The church is very silent. We're all silent. University level are very silent. Today, Ntate Norman, as a pastor, you as a pastor in church, in your gospel, what do you believe that how we can start leading the process of changing the whole concept of sugar daddy in South Africa? Secondly, the second thing is that on the basis of morality as a pastor, how do you believe that the pulpit can start leading the process of changing our young girls to start leading their lives in education? Over to you, Tate Norman Nosi Monapule. You got 1 minute to introduce yourself and you got 9 minutes to topic. Over to you. You may proceed. Thank you, Norman. Norman Nosi? Norman? While waiting on Norman Nosi that, let me go to the judge. From a legal perspective, Judge, and then the view we're seeing on sugar daddies in South Africa, from the base of the law, is sugar daddy a crime because you infect HIV, you don't report it? Secondly, the findings then from the Law Commission from Justice Cameron, where it says that sugar daddy aspect and the same level that if affected with HIV is supposed to be a crime, is attempted murder. You, a person at the bench and the retired magistrate, what's your view and thinking around the base of sugar daddy from a legal context, Judge? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Greggy. Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me, Greggy?
Yeah, I can hear you, Judge. Thanks, yeah.
Okay. Let me come up in the following adage, sir. Good morning, and I would like to apologize for my absence last time. I was suddenly required to attend to an application in court. However, I did send a copy of my paper. This is how the legal aspect should be viewed in as far as this matter is concerned. I am, for the purposes of my colleagues, the panelists this morning, I am Hassani, I am Samuel, my Shimda is my surname. Indeed, so I'm a former regional magistrate, acting judge, active member, and a co-founder of the Association of the Judicial Officers of South Africa, which I represent in this dialogue. My introduction in this matter is one, much as I have in the past participated presenting our forum in terms of request, I again feel honored to record my acceptance for an invitation to share legal contributions on the impact of an alarming episode of sugar daddies and HIV pandemic. The concept sugar daddy stems from sugar dating, where the provider, who is called a sugar daddy or a sugar mommy, it's typically older and wealthier, while the recipient, who is called a sugar baby, is typically younger, attractive, and interested in improving their quality of life. The recipient can obtain gifts such as jewelry, luxury goods, vacation, fine dining, mentorship, leisure outings, financial support, and offers in return social benefits such as companionship, dedication, devotion, affection, dating, or intimacy. This is the most important aspect of the intimacy. So it is a type of pseudo-romantic interpersonal relationship where one person receives money or gifts in exchange for intimacy or companionship. Sugar dating is especially popular in the outland community, dating community, done to the ease of accessing specific niches and desires. The legality and comparison to sex work. Two, there is debate about whether this practice can be considered sex work and whether there is a clear line between sugaring and sex work. Some forms of full service sex work, such as the girlfriend experience, trade or emotional intimacy and companionship, as much as they do the direct period of sexual services. Is sugaring or dating lawful in South Africa? 3, the general view is that sugar dating or the blessee dynamic is largely legal in South Africa, provided that relationship remains consensual between adults, I stress, between adults, and does not cross the line into sex work. However, navigating these arrangements requires strict adherence to the law to avoid legal complications. The legal boundaries must be viewed in the following adage. 4, the exchange of money is a root problem in the country. It is legal for an older, financially secure individual to provide material support, gifts, or financial assistance to a partner. It is also entirely legal to pay for companionship. Let's look into the next aspect. 5, the legality of sex work. Under South African law, falling within the ambit of the Sexual Offences Act, which is in force in our country now, sex work remains a criminal offense. If the sex arrangement involves the direct exchange of money or material goods, specifically for sexual intercourse, it legally crosses into prostitution and becomes unlawful. The next aspect is age of consent. Any sexual activity with an individual under the age of 16 years is unlawful and constitutes statutory rape regardless of the consent or any financial agreements so made. 7, prostitution law. Under South African law, trading sex for reward, where money, gifts, or favors are involved, is currently classified as a criminal offense in our country. 8, coercion and minors. This is one of the issues that we are to bear in mind. The law strictly prohibits relationships that involve the exploitation of power dynamics, particularly those involving minors and students under 25 years, which often overlap with human trafficking or abuse of law. Because these arrangements can break the lines between consensual dating and illicit transitional sex, participants face legal vulnerabilities. Under the Sexual Offences Act, as I've referred to earlier on, it is illegal to exchange sexual services for any reward. And operating a brothel, it's also unlawful in our country, though we see it happening behind closed doors. The impact of sugar daddies and HIV, the core of our discussion today. 9, transactional relationships with older men, often called sugar daddies or blessers, are a primary driver of HIV transmission, particularly amongst adolescent girls and young women. These dynamics significantly heighten HIV vulnerability due to extreme power imbalance, unequal negotiation of safe sex, and economic dependency. The intersection of these relationships and HIV epidemic is defined in some of the following factors. One, that is 9.1, power imbalance and condom use. Older men hold significant financial and social leverage over young partners. Research consistently shows that the larger the gap and the higher the financial dependency, the less likely couples are to use condoms. Young women often feel powerless to negotiate safe sex without jeopardizing the financial support they rely on. 9.2, economic vulnerability, poverty, financial hardship, and the desire for material goods often drive young women into these relationships. When sex is exchanged for money, rent, or school fees, the young woman loses the ability to demand safe sex practices, placing herself at a high risk of contracting HIV and other sexually transmitted infections. 9.3, high viral loads. Older male partners are more likely to have established HIV infections, and if infected, higher viral loads, because these men may have multiple concurrent sexual partners. They serve as a crucial bridge for HIV transmission from older demographics to the youth of our country. 9.4, false perception of safety. Young women and girls may mistakenly view older, wealthier men as safer or less likely to be infected than their younger, affluent peers. This false sense of security often leads to unprotected sex. Is normally transmitting HIV criminal in South Africa. 10, in South Africa, knowingly and intentionally transmitting HIV can be prosecuted as a crime. Depending on the circumstances and degree of intent, offenders can be charged with crimes such as attempted murder, assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm, or culpable homicide if death results. Mahlumbandile Ntotela, a labor law practitioner, shares a concurring legal view in his article that he called "The Criminalization of HIV Transmissions in South Africa," which was released on 1 December 2025, thus knowingly and intentionally transmitting HIV during sexual intercourse to the innocent partner is a criminal offense subject to applicable punishment depending on the degree of severity of the transmission. 11. South African courts' decisions have arguably, through established common law principles, delivered judgments that criminalize the intentional transmission of HIV. Suffice it to make mere reference to the following decisions as confirmation of the current legal position. I have got a case of State versus Nyalungu, who was convicted of transmitting HIV to the complainant and was sentenced to prison. I've got a case of Makula and Mnisi. These were nurses who came to each other and the HIV was transmitted. The News 24 held an interview about this aspect, and it was emphasized that that remains a criminal offense in a country. We've got a case of Mapuma, who was convicted of transmitting HIV to a complainant, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, on appeal, the court confirmed the conviction of and interfered with the sentence, which was reduced from life imprisonment to 15 years imprisonment. So it remains criminal. 12. Essentially, the government has so far held continuous developments leading to the applicable preventative. I think Mem will know that we've got what we call a PEP. It's an abbreviation of a drug that an innocent sex participant has to take within 72 hours after the sexual ordeal, whether she knew or she merely suspected that the man with whom she had sexual intercourse quite recently could have been positive. In order to our safeguarded interest, that drug, it's available at pharmacies, at public hospitals, in order to get rid of any possible transmission. It is encouraging that the South African government has recently released a further relief of a 6-monthly variant jam healthcare available in the 6 of the 9 provinces, with a hope that the remaining 3 provinces will be covered during the coming 2027. This will result in HIV suppressed and stay a real chronic transmission wherever still available. Out of this, can I come with the following conclusion? 13, South Africa received HIV as a deadly disease, and the government must be applauded at this stage for the giant steps taken so far in reducing its effect to a mere suppressed chronic illness as long as people adhere to medication. It would be a progressive stance that all members of the South African territory shoulder responsibility to take account of their own life by accessing available health care being provided across the country, be it PEP or Varinet, and or availing themselves to healthcare being provided. Particularly men, I am saying, men are stubborn. They do not want to go to doctors for examination. Let us avail in order to make sure of our life, because by so doing, we are becoming accountable for the future of this country, which lies in the hands of the youth of this country. I must thank you very much for this opportunity. I am Hassan Mashimzi. My contact number 084 919 and my email address is mashimzahs1@gmail.com. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Judge. Thanks for opening and setting up a tone. Let me go to the young man there, Tiamo. Tiamo, there's a number of things happening currently in the country. The premier once said from Northwest said that poverty, unemployment, inequality continues to expose many young women and girls to exploitation by so-called sugar daddies. What concentrate programs is the Limpopo government implemented is to protect vulnerable young girls while creating education, employment, and economic opportunities that reduce the risk. Now, your question today, Tiamo, is that linking down to it's going to be a two-way question that we'll be posing to you. What pressures do the university students face that may take transactional relationships seems attractive? The second one is that how common do you think these relationships are on the university campuses? And the last one is that as a St. Gertrude and a Catholic young person and a provincial secretary at UWC studying law, what's your perspective of the role the church should play as a young person in this issue of sugar daddies? And how then can we start stopping the sugar daddy approach and start making it girls to become positive on their own lives and achieve education? Over to you, Tiamo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To start with, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. It is both an honor and a privilege to be part of this conversation on the challenges facing young people today and the opportunities we have to create a healthier, safer, and more dignified future for everyone. So the key issues is that our generation is full of potential. Many young people are innovative, resilient, and capable of transforming our communities. However, many face social and economic pressures that influence their decisions and shape their futures. It is therefore our collective as the youth and as parents, educators, faith leaders, community members, government institutions, and young people ourselves to create environments where every young person can thrive. One of the pressing challenges we continue to face is transactional relationships, or also known as sugar daddy relationships. These are relationships where affection or companionship is exchanged for financial support, gifts, or material benefits. While these relationships may appear to offer immediate relief from financial hardship, they often expose young people to exploitation, emotional abuse, unintended pregnancies, sexual transmitted diseases, and the loss of personal dignity on campus. Many young people do not enter these relationships because they want to, but rather they are driven by poverty, unemployment, inequality, and the pressure to maintain certain lifestyles. Social media has also contributed to unrealistic expectations about success, wealth, appearances, causing many young people to believe that material possessions define their worth in life. We, as the society, the church, faith leaders, the community, are to remind our young people that their value is not determined by what they own, but by who they are. No financial benefit is worth sacrificing one's health, safety, education, or future. This brings us to another critical issue. Just hold on. Although significant progress has been, this brings us to another critical issue, HIV prevention and sexual health. Although significant progress has been made in educating communities about HIV, it remains one of the biggest public health challenges facing South Africa. Many young people continue to become infected, often because of stigma, misinformation, peer pressure, or unequal power dynamics in relationships, just as the judge mentioned in his address. Preventing HIV requires more than awareness campaigns. It requires proper education, open communication and education, regular HIV testing, access to healthcare services, and responsible decision making. Young people should be encouraged to know their HIV status, seek medical advice without fear or shame, and understand the importance of prevention methods such as condom and pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, as it's known as PrEP as well, where appropriate. Knowing your status is not something to fear. It is an act of courage, responsibility, and self-respect. Equality is another factor. Equality is important in addressing gender-based violence. Gender-based violence continues to destroy families, communities, and futures. It affects women, children, and men, and even men, leaving emotional, physical, psychological, and economic scars that can last a lifetime. Violence is never an expression of love. Controlling behavior or intimidation, emotional manipulation, which is used by sugar daddies, and physical assault are all forms of violence that should never be tolerated in society. We should learn to speak up. When you see that something is not right, you should stand up for the truth, even if you're standing up for it alone. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, honesty, equality, and kindness. They allow both individuals to grow without fear. As young people, we must reject harmful beliefs that equate masculinity with dominance or aggression. Real strength is demonstrated through self control, empathy, accountability, and respect for others. Another topic that deserves our attention is consent and healthy communication. Consent is not merely the absence of no, it is the presence of a clear, informed, and enthusiastic yes. Every person has the right to make decisions about their own body without pressure, manipulation, fear, or coercion. Respecting boundaries is fundamental to every healthy relationship. Communication is equally essential. Many conflicts arise because people assume instead of listening, react instead of understanding, or remain silent instead of expressing themselves respectfully. Teaching young people how to communicate openly, resolve disagreements peacefully, and respect one another's boundaries, and respecting one another's boundaries can prevent many unhealthy relationships before they begin. We may also invest in positive masculinity, active fatherhood, and meaningful mentorship for the youth. Young people learn not only from what adults say, but also from what they do. Boys need positive male role models who demonstrate respect, responsibility, integrity, emotional maturity, and compassion. Girls need mentors who encourage confidence, independence, leadership, and self worth. Active fathers and mentors play an invaluable role in helping young people develop healthy identities, build confidence, and make wise life choices. Communities, schools, churches, universities, and youth organizations all have a responsibility to create mentorship opportunities that support young people through life's challenges. However, addressing social challenges alone is not enough. We must tackle the economic realities that many young people in the country face. Education remains one of the most powerful tools for breaking the cycle of poverty. Skill development, entrepreneurship, internships, employment opportunities, and financial literacy programs equip young people with the ability to become self-reliant and build sustainable futures. When young people have access to opportunities, they are less vulnerable to exploitation and more empowered to pursue their dreams with confidence. Mental health must also form part of this conversation. Many young people silently struggle with depression, anxiety, trauma, loneliness, substance abuse, and overwhelming stress. These challenges often include decision making and relationships. We must normalize seeking help, checking in on one another, and creating safe spaces where young people can speak openly without fear of judgment. There is strength in asking for help, and no one should face life struggles alone. As we move forward, we must remember that lasting change benefits with each one of us. Policies and programs are important, but transformation also happens through everyday choices, choosing respect over abuse, honesty over deception, responsibility over recklessness, compassion over judgment, and hope over despair. Every young person deserves the opportunity to grow in an environment where they feel safe, respected, and valued. Together, we can build communities where healthy relationships flourish, where dignity is protected, where violence is rejected, and where every young person has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Before I conclude, Ranyangani, I would like to add that at tertiary level, these relationships actually prominent. They are quite prominent. At the residence I used to stay last year, from Wednesday till Sunday, there would be flashy cars that would park up there. And my peers, first years, it was a residence for first years only. So these older men would intentionally prey on first years because first years are often confused. They're still trying to adapt to the environment. So every Sunday, there would be cars, flashy cars like your Mercedes G-Wagon, the Viano, the V-Class, your 5 Series. They would always stop there and they would pick up girls and take these girls to clubs. And these girls would walk out of the residence with mini skirts and only return the following day or once the weekend has passed. So it is an issue, especially at tertiary level, where most of these students are preyed upon by these men. These females or these female students give in due to economic difficulties that they experience at home and at university because many students lack funding these days. So it's a transactional relationship for these students. She gives him what he wants. She gets gifts in return. She gets an iPhone. She gets an Apple Watch. She gets an iPad, a MacBook, or whatever she needs at that time. So as I conclude, I would like to leave everyone with this question. What is one thing you will do after this dialogue to build healthier relationships, promote dignity and strength within your community? Let this conversation not end here. Let us inspire action. Let each of us become an ambassador for respect, responsibility, and positive change in our homes, schools, universities, workplaces, and communities. Together, we can create a future where every young person lives with dignity, purpose, hope, and opportunity. Thank you, Renyongani.
Thank you so much, Siamo. That Ntate Nosi, the church teaches that relationships should be built on love, mutual respect, commitment, equality, and genuine care, not on financial dependence and manipulation or unequal power. When older men use their wealth or influence to pursue young girls or financially vulnerable young women, there is a serious risk of exploitation and harm. At the same time, the church's response must be rooted in compassion rather than judgment. Young women who find themselves in this situation often face difficult circumstances and need to support counseling and education opportunity and not rejection. The question I need to pose to you today, and that is that the role of the church in addressing sugar daddies relationships and the effect and infection of HIV and AIDS in the community. Over to you, Pastor Nosi.
Tell me, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible with the age and the anniversary of your parents as well. You may proceed. Thank you.
Yeah, man, don't do that to me, Greg. From the position of an altar or from the pulpit, what I'm looking at now, there are a number of things that we need to address, especially when firstly, we need to understand this concept of sugar daddy and HIV vulnerability. We're having an issue of what we call an economic asymmetry and transactional sex. You'd find that older men, they are aware that the younger women, they do not just enter into this relationship simply because for gifts or luxuries. They are aware that they are coming into the relationships purely for survival because they want to pay their school fees, they want to find food, or they want to have a safe place to stay. So now that economic pressure, it makes it very difficult for them to say no to a risky relationship. Now, when we talk about that economic asymmetry, the term itself, it means that we are looking at an unequal economic relationship between two people or two groups. So in this context, it means that the one person who is now a sugar daddy, who is the older partner now, he has more money, has more resources, uh, has more financial power than the younger person. So now the younger person, because the younger person may need help with food, with school fees, with transportation, accommodation, or basic survival, they feel pressured to stay in a relationship or accept the conditions that you would not freely choose. So, and then when you get into the biological risk, or in this age asymmetric partnership, that younger women, they can face actually this higher risk of HIV, because both biology and in terms of both biology and exposure, because older partners, which is se bana ba sa se tlhaloganye, when you are in a relationship with an older partner, you are in a relationship with someone who has had more sexual partners over a time. And this, which means now that can increase the chance of HIV being present in that relationships. Apparently, this issue of I think the judge will address it, the issue of power dynamics and negotiating for the use of condoms. You know, when one person has more money or age, has more age, or he has more control, it seems like it becomes difficult for the younger partner to speak up, asking for the use of a condom, you know, because ba feel like maybe in this relationship it's very, very risky. But you know, but the lack of financial support, continue to or their daily needs, they depend specifically on this partner. Now, our role as a church, we are looking at how do we restore the dignity and the agency. There are three things still, John. Number one is this economic empowerment as a structural intervention. You know, if poverty is part of our societal problem, it means now, how do we solve that? You need income and opportunity. That must be part of the solution. And opportunity, like when we provide skills training, when we provide small business support, when we provide bursaries, when we provide cash support that can help young women to make changes or to make those choices from a place of strength. But they should not make those choices from a place of being desperate. Because I think it's also one of the things for younger women, they find themselves, is because they're always desperate or they're in a hurry to get things very easy. And then we have this thing of destigmatization and psychological support, against the psychosocial support. Yeah. I don't know now if it has changed, but previously, when people are affected by HIV or people who are in a transactional relationship, they would often carry this shame in society because by shame, they are being judged. You know, that shame is placed on them. But now, in restoring that thing, it means that now the healing part needs to start when they are met with the necessary support, when they are met with counseling, when they get the support from their peer groups and messages that they remind them that they still have the dignity and the value. And then the other thing is the issue of access to education and literacy. I think our young kids, they're in a hurry to be out of school. But Rona, as a society or as different organization, we need to assist in keeping these girls in school, because keeping them in school is one of the strongest way to reduce HIV risk. Not to say to eliminate, but to reduce it. Because if you look at education, education is giving young people information. Because they have information, they gain confidence. And with that confidence, it means they have now more options when they make choices for their future. And then from the altar, when we stand, we are also looking at rebuilding the purpose and the future orientation. I've mentioned about the life skills training. Now, when we look at life skills and goal setting programs, younger people on a daily basis, they don't just need winnings, they need hope, they need practical tools, Greg. And life skills, leadership training, and goal setting program are things that they help them to imagine a future that is not controlled by the immediate survival. You see, that is where the problem is. We want immediate survival and do not want to go through a process that will lead us into an everlasting survival mode. To rebuild that purpose hub, there's community-led mentorship. Mentorship, right? It's something that gives young people real life examples of things that are possible. You know, when they see people from their own communities, and how you succeed in driving these programs. This thing, it also builds confidence and resilience. I mean, Tiamo is one of those young people who are looking at Bogrek, who are looking at us for an man. Maybe I think this is the path that I need to follow if ke batla go na le a proper future, or if ke batla go tshela a dignified life. And then in rebuilding happy, there's vocational and entrepreneurial pathways. More for young people, they really need realistic alternatives, such as job placements. They need technical training, and especially issue of job placement. Job placement, the country, you look at what the country is trying to do to say that we should absorb young people into jobs, but we still have a lot of people who are in the retirement zone who do not want to get out of the space for young people to get in. They need, which means now they also need this technical training. They need the small business opportunities that we have been looking at. But in these opportunities also, we need to get rid of manipulating processes where we decide we will only assist a certain group of people who are favorable to certain groups of people. So with those small business opportunities that can help them to earn an income without relying on a risky or an unequal relationship. So again, from our point of preaching to the congregations, we are promoting a issue of cultivating healthy and equitable relationships. Today, an HIV diagnosis does not mean it's an end. Because with the right treatment, with the right information, with the right support from family and couples on one another, where one partner is maybe HIV positive and the other one is HIV negative, if there is that necessary support, it means that can still have a healthy and fulfilling relationship. So in cultivating this relationship, the power of you equals to you, the undetectable and transmittable. You know, one of the most messages today, a person living with HIV and who takes treatment and maintains an undetectable viral load, that person cannot pass HIV sexually to their partner. This, it helps also to reduce fear. It also helps to restore the trust in the relationship. And then there's another issue of biomedical prevention. You know, these prevention tools. Say, one of my niece or sister altitiko love life, so but PrEP, PEP, where by PrEP it helps with prevention of HIV before it is exposed. And then Babanali, another program, PEP, where it's an emergency treatment that must actually be started soon after the HIV or the possibility of HIV has been exposed. Now, these two options are options that deny young people more control over their health. Understand? So, also in this cultivating an equitable relationship, that is fostering mutual respect and communication. Because you know that in a healthy relationships are built on respect. Healthy relationships are built on respect, they are built on honesty. They are also built on consent from both partners. And they are also built on shared decision making. But they are built on supporting one another's objectives and goals. So now young people, they need to be taught, Greg, that love should not be based on fear. Love should not be based on material exchange. Love should not be based on the pressure. E le gore you are pressured by the person who is more powerful than you in terms of money. You understand? So those things taken ke mention that respect and honest are ke tsone tse di dirang gore the relationship should grow in a positive way. And then that responsibility of social and cultural integration in healing rona as ministers, priestly ministers. Renale, what we call the soul care visit, we go to the families, and sometimes we're looking for reason why we're keeping a child away from the church. We find out maybe why is a child not in Sunday school. Because what we realize is that families, they play a very powerful role in healing, even in addressing issues for young people. When families offer support instead of judgment to a young person, even for a person who's living with HIV, the person who's living with HIV is more likely to stay in care, is more likely to take treatment on time. That person is more likely to feel emotionally supported. So where we need to transform the norms of the community, Greg. The communities around, they also need to change the way we talk about the HIV issues, the way we talk about the young girls. We need to look at how do we talk about these things. We need to talk about how do we talk about the gender, how do we talk about this relationship, because the open conversation, there's a likelihood it can reduce the stigma. It can also challenge the harmful power, this harmful power dynamics, and it can also make it safer for young people to seek help. When we are having a fellowship with church, sometimes they are afraid maybe to speak to a certain priest, but out of a fellowship, you would hear priest, I thought you are a strict person, Kanti, you are a person who you are an open-minded person. And then where you get to hear challenges face, and then sometimes they just ask for this advice from you. How is it that they're supposed to life it's a bone? Or sometimes they would also indicate in this kind of relationship, is it a good relationship? And we would give not only spiritual advice, but we would also give an open advice. Maybe the relationship can lead to your harm, or it can lead to your death. We also go to that to extend that we assist in terminating that relationship, even though sometimes it's difficult because sometimes la relationship is stopiwa. They still go back to that person because they know man, survival ida. I mean, number 5, Greg, I used to ask myself why they would find themselves being in a relationship with a gangster or a mototlhaba. Kanti they are in this relationship because of safety. If something, she's under the protection of this guy who can deal with anyone. The criminal element, this person, if I'm protected, he might end up in jail for many years. That is not what they're looking at. They're looking at my safety. I'm protected, Lena, or I'm counted, Lena, amongst the girls, Papa cheering gang leaders, or Papa cheering this, Papa Banoba, Baba cheering. And I know even took, like I started in the beginning, it's very, very sad for the majority of the sugar daddies are aware for this is not just about the transactional relations. This is purely say when we look at it that these young children are in a hurry for easy things, and they are easily pressured by their peers, like Tiamo has indicated, university. It's a sad story. It's a very, very sad story. When children are at the university, they tend to forget what was the purpose of applying for NSFAS, university, or when parents are saying, we're going to pay your entire school fees, what was the purpose of the school fees? Because the purpose, or the purpose is specifically you will be engaging and actively listening to the number of lecturers who will be giving you projects. That is what the school fees is about. You'll be completing number of assignments. You'll be completing your assessments. And at the end of a certain period, you'll be coming out with your results for what you've paid for. I have completed this thing. So because of this, being in a hurry, because sometimes there are those who, but they are influenced by their friends' lifestyle. Friends' lifestyle in the sense that when you are still under your parents' care, now I can survive. I can do this and this and this and this and this. I don't know if I've covered myself, Greg, or I don't want to go over or exceed more than what I've contributed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nathan Norman, that you have raised a number of key aspects about it, which I'm forced then to go back to the judge, what you've just raised. Judge, there's a number of things being raised here today, and it also needs a legal context to that. Let me start with the following issue that where it's a common norm, there are no sugar daddies happening in South Africa. They give women money, they pay bonds for them, they buy cars for them, and they do everything for them financially. But at the same time, an expectation is created to them. It's almost like a voluntary agreement saying that I will take care of you. Now, I'm looking now into one of the profound judgments in South Africa of Folks N.O. versus Robertson, where the Constitutional Court held the financial dependence alone did not give an unmarried survivor partner an automatic right to maintain from a deceased estate. It's a normal practice which is happening now. This is the question I want to pose to the judge that if a deceased man paid a young woman's rent, gave a monthly allowance, and supported her financially for many years, can she claim maintenance from this estate after his death? There's the first question. Does the regional financial support create a legal duty of maintenance or marriage or other legal relationship required before the claim can be succeeded? And the last one is that, how does South African courts distinguish between a voluntary financial arrangement and a legal enforcement duty of support? Over to you, Judge. Judge, are you still there? Osma, to you, there's a following question. As a mother and as a grandmother, what impact is the sugar daddy and the HIV having an impact in African families? There's the first question. And second, as an activist, how do we stop this notion where that responsibility from fathers must be in the house, not giving money to sugar daddies? And the last one is that, how then can we stop the problems of society of HIV and AIDS, where we need to take sugar daddies on legally, and then they must be held accountable? Over to you, Mabato.
Thank you, Greg. And I wanted, as this is a dialogue, maybe the question, can you write the questions and other people on call respond, so that it's not us only that are responding to the questions, and there are mothers here and aunts and grandmothers who might also have seen this happening in their homes and also in the communities. So, but let me start. Let me start with the impact. I think for me, firstly, if you're looking at the impact of the sugar daddy syndrome with the children, as I said in my opening address, that for the fact that the statistics from the Department of Health shows that the number of girls who are pregnant don't correlate to the number of their peers who are boys who are pregnant. It means the people that are sleeping with these children who are positive are older men. And the biggest tragedy in that is that those older men, as Datima Shimbia said, those older men also have other multiple partners with them, especially when they're using money to get these young girls. Besides other multiple partners, they've got a core partner, the one known by community, the one known by the family being called a wife. So, and in many instances, whether it's caste, culture, is religion, the wife has been told to respect the husband, to be the one at home. So the wife is at home, infected by this person who is sleeping around in the community. The wife is at home, having been told that you, in especially in African culture, you don't ask where the man comes from when they've been out. So even when they sleep around and come home after a day or two, she is at home and she's not expected to even negotiate safe sex. So she's at home wanting to be infected by this person who is not protecting themselves. That's why the children, the girls are positive. It means they're not using condom anyway. So you find that this person not only has infected one person, whether they were the carriers or not, for the fact now that they are positive and they've got multiple partners, already they're destroying many other young people. And as Tiamo says, ultimately, they might not have a lasting relationship with these girls that they are sleeping with at university. This girl might not at the time go and test. The relationship might end when they leave the university. And when they go back home, they get into relationship with their own peers. Now, that again spreads this disease, because if many young people also don't use condoms and they have sex before marriage, they will have this intercourse. And now their peer who's a young man gets infected. And if that young man is not faithful and also has other partners, you can just imagine the number of young people who are infected by this one person, including the wife who's at home, by this one person. And because they reinfect, some of them, their status just go higher and become AIDS. That's when they get sick, they go to the clinic or to the doctor, they are told, after testing, they're told that they're positive. That is the impact of the sugar daddy syndrome, because yes, there are those that will get a house for this person, but there are those that every weekend in all these clubs, wherever they go with these young people almost like a trophy. Every week I'm showing up with this beautiful girl, but they're showing up with this beautiful girl while they're positive. And they leave them, the beautiful girl gets another sugar daddy, or now gets her own a young person. And we will never deal with the HIV issue in the country if we don't talk about the behavior of men, especially rich men who wants to show that they are viral. And some of them that they don't even have that, it's because of the money. They can't even perform at home. You know, we had, I think in one of our Freedom Thursday, talking about how men also expose their weak points by using sexuality that does not exist, that the wife at home is protecting because they know this person while they were still young. Now they are not performing at home and they are not exposing that, but they go out and expose themselves. And these young people will continue talking about, I don't care, they can come anyway. I'm not getting what I'm supposed to get. So the lack of morality is what is making this country to be where it is now and destroying the future of the young girls. Does not matter whether there is medication and that medication might prolong the virus from being AIDS. However, for the fact that now these young people have to the rest of their lives drinking all these tablets because one older person was irresponsible because they had money and sleep with them. That is a problem.
Thank you so much, Ed. I think I'm going to put Soraya on the spot here because I basically believe that, Soraya, from your perspective, on the same basis, that what's your view on the matter, Soraya?
Okay, she
Soraya?
also has a question. She also has a question that she understands that her question might not be it might not be related to the topic, but what she's asking is to Ntate Mashimbi. But also we've got Advocate Mikateko, who is also an acting judge, but as a lawyer might be also respond. She says, speak to parent right and responsibility in relation to the children's act. So I'm not sure the right of raising their children and maybe the right of talking to these older men who might be having a relationship with their children. Because, yeah,
Okay,
Atibila.
Advocate, may proceed. Thank you, Advocate.
No, but I see her hand is up. Maybe she might want to
Okay, she may pose
clarify
a
the
question. Okay,
Yes.
thanks. She may pose a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I've been listening so intently that I'm getting lost because I didn't keep my notebook, just worried about the electricity and having enough battery. So my question relates to, it starts at the beginning. When parents get married, what's the reason for getting married? Do they get married because it's a sugar daddy you're getting married to that's going to provide you with all that you love in your life? Or for what's the reason for getting married? Because you have children. And in relation to having children, we have so many divorce cases. And what is happening in the home, and that affects the children, that they go and look for affection wherever. I'm worried about, yes, it's about the what do you call it, the HIV/AIDS and infection and things like that gets passed on, but where is the responsibility with regard to parents when they raise their children, whatever faith anybody comes from? Surely there is that the faith-based leaders must really emphasize on how we look at raising children in our homes and how much harm we cause the children, that they go out and go and look for whatever they want to look for. Because if for whatever the reason is that there's a breakup in the family, it's both parents, mother and father, that are responsible for that. So I'm not so sure if I'm making sense.
You're making a lot of sense. That Errol, that I've seen your comment as well that you've just written. In the same breath, Errol, that what's your view on the matter of sugar daddies? And also, the comment have also written that it's relevant to the discussion as well. That you may proceed, Errol. Over to you, Errol. Thank you. Errol,
Hi, I
Errol,
wasn't expecting to say anything. Are you speaking to me?
yes, you may proceed. Okay.
Thank you very much. Clearly, sugar daddies are a problem. But a balanced perspective needs to look at how women can abuse and misuse men for transactional purposes. And to pick up on what Auntie Bibi was saying, too often men and women, but let's focus on sort of too often women enter into relationships where they have children and they turn the parental relationship into a money stream. And it's all too easy in our family law to withhold the child, ransom the child, hold the child hostage, demand money from the father, exclude the father, for example, using a protection order, and then use the maintenance court machinery to extract money out of sole custody. That's a model for a broken home. And that broken home will create children. The daughter might have a hunger in her heart for fatherhood and therefore become prey to a sugar daddy. So we're looking at generational consequences of a family law that promotes a broken home culture. So sugar daddies is a problem, but it's possibly a symptom of a broken home syndrome, of a fatherlessness generation. And our family law is actually encouraging broken homes. There's no, for example, there's no contact court. If a mother kidnaps a child, takes a child to another province, there's no contact court for the father, even if he holds a contact order, there's no place for him to go. The police will not listen to his complaint. If a court issues an order, the order is worthless, and there's simply no place for a father to protect contact in the same way that a mother can protect maintenance. So our law is one-sided. Our law encourages broken homes. And what we're looking at today is partly a symptom of a family law that is not protecting family.
Are you saying that a review should be done then on the Maintenance Act, or a regulation should be relooked at? There's a thing that you've brought in now. And second, that from perspective of culture dynamics in the white community, how do you believe that the influx of sugar daddy have further broken than families and have further then also destroyed the issue of morality in society? What's your view on the matter? Thank you, Errol.
Okay, so those are complicated questions. Let's break them down. In terms of, let's just look at law as the Maintenance Act. We have a Maintenance Act that makes it very easy to extract money. Now, our Bill of Rights 9.3 promises that promises equality, promises that the state will protect men and women equally based on gender and based on marital status. But what's happening in practice is that inside the Maintenance Act, there's no consideration of denial of contact. And there is nothing equal to or parallel with the Maintenance Act and the Maintenance Court. If we wanted to be fair, if we wanted to play equal between men and women, we would have a contact court. We would have a contact act where people, often fathers with contact orders, would have a state machinery and a state prosecutor, a state clerk, and mechanisms for recovering contact. But we have nothing like that in our law. This is inherited from apartheid. Our system of law, our courts, is inherited from apartheid. It's an apartheid problem that we haven't fixed yet. So the bias, the gender bias in our family law, we inherited that from apartheid, and we need to transform that dimension of our law, just like we transform the racial dimension. And the thing is, if our law encourages transactional relationships, because our divorce law, our maintenance law turns marriages into income streams. So if we have a family law that is promoting transactional approaches and not encouraging love and relationship and connection and longevity, if our law promotes a transactional approach, then to pick up on your question about morality, people will respond. People respond to incentives. And if the law encourages a money-focused approach to relationships and to children, well, then the population will adopt that system. If we want to have a change in morality of people, we need to look at what is the morality that our legal system is enforcing. And here, speaking as a white person, let me apologize for what a previous era has done to indigenous relationships. I think that the influence of Western law on African families has, for all of their benefits, has had many destructive components. And I think as a shared community now, we need to revisit the effect of colonial laws, of apartheid laws on the family.
Okay, Greg, there's a hand from Advocate Maleke.
She may proceed because I cannot see. She may proceed. Thank you. Over to you, Advocate. You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning to everyone here. I'm Mikateko Maluleke. I would like to start by saying I think the law responds to the kind of relationships that exist. There are parents who have children, they don't live together. However, those children, they don't feel the fact that the parents don't live together because the father will pick up the children, the mother will stay with the children, or the father will stay with the children and the mother will pick up the children. They'll speak about the children. The children are happy. They enjoy both parents. And in those instances, no parent goes to court. There are those instances where the father will pay maintenance, but doesn't want to see the child. The mother will not go to court because the child has to be maintained. Unfortunately, the transaction part of it is the reality of the fact that the child has to go to school, the child has to eat, the child has to have a medical aid and all those things. And once the relationship between the parents is broken, the only thing that remains is the transaction. And there are instances where the father doesn't want to pay. The father sees this as giving the mother money. The father doesn't see the money going to maintain his child. Then in those instances, the mother will go to court. And going to court, the mother wants money to raise the children, for the children to go to school, for the children to have food and all those things. And which is very minimal. There might be instances where the mother is abusing the court, but most of the time, the mothers do not. I'm speaking from experience. I've been in the Department of Justice. I know I was a Director General in the Department of Women. I know women would complain. Many women don't get the money. The maintenance system doesn't work for many women, despite the fact that the Maintenance Act has been amended twice or thrice, and it has a section which says that someone's assets will be attached, people will be blacklisted. It is still yet to be effected, that section. I remember I even spoke to the Deputy Minister of Justice, John Jeffries, at some point saying, your section is ineffective. And he said, yes, Unfortunately, the courts can't even implement that section. So it depends on the relationship. So one relationship cannot paint the justice system, as bad, even though most women will tell you that the justice system doesn't work for them. I was just addressing that one, that the maintenance system is a problem to many women. They do not get those transactions. So they end up using their money to raise the children. And that is why some of the children are very angry, because they don't have a relationship with the father and the father doesn't maintain them. But equally so, the fathers who live with the children, they have a right to claim maintenance from the mother. And most of the time, some fathers will not claim, but others will claim and they won't find it. So though it starts, or it goes back to the relationship between the parents of the children. How do people value their children? Are people thinking that when we maintain our children, this is good for me also, because these are my children that I'm maintaining? But now I want to leave this one and go to, because I can go on and go on. I want to talk about the challenges that we have with sugar daddies and all those things. Yes, I know most of the time we blame poverty, but sometimes even children that are from well-off families, they also get involved in those things. I don't know what is the problem. There's a young lady, I think the parents lived in Centurion. She told her friend that she was meeting somebody at Menlyn, and she disappeared. The parents looked for her, they couldn't find her until they spoke to their friend to say, please tell us, she's disappeared now, it's many days, we can't find her. So the young lady told them that she was going to meet somebody, a sugar daddy, at Menlyn. And when they managed to go into her phone, they discovered the details of this person, but they found the young girl dead somewhere in I think it was Atteridgeville or some or Sushangube, but she died and then she was buried in a pit latrine. So and she was from a well family. But I know that mostly it affects children from poor families. And I agree with Tiamo. We need to address this, and those that have said it, that we need to address issues of economic empowerment. But before we even go to economic empowerment, how do we build the self of a young girl? How do we give her resilience even when she is faced with financial challenges, to be able to say, I will wait until my situation is addressed? So I think, and this is what I've been saying from long ago, even in terms of addressing gender-based violence, we need to go back to how we raise children, parenting, and also empowerment of parents. As a country, we came up with laws, we came up with directives and all those things, corporal punishment, no corporal punishment, no punishment. And government never taught parents in terms of, if we are not going to administer corporal punishment, how do you still administer punishment? Because there are other ways of administering punishment without corporal punishment. We never taught parents how to parent their children. And also because I think I forgot your name just now. You apologized for apartheid, for destroying the relationships. It's so true. Some of the parents, they lived in Gauteng, the children were in the rural areas and all those things, all those relationships, they even destroyed the communal support that people had before, that even if you're not at home, your grandparents would be there, your aunts and all those things will look at or will look after your children as yourself. All that has been destroyed. During COVID, there were young ladies who, she lived alone with a child and she's expected to go to work and she only has a child. She doesn't have support and all those things. So the communal support that we used to have has been destroyed, and then it was replaced by things like where if somebody's poor, then they have to go to sex work or sugar daddies. And somebody was saying they buy houses for them. It's not their houses. Once they're tired of them, they kick them out of the houses. So there are many challenges, but I think more than anything else, we need to talk about going back to the basics. How do we ensure that parents support their children? Because if we can ensure that we promote effective parenting, our children will do well at schools, our children will drop out, our children will be resilient, our children will be able to come back and speak to their parents and say, you know, there's this man who says this to me. And the parents will be able to say, you know what, that's dangerous. Let me not take all the time. I have a lot to say, but let me stop here. Thank you.
Enrique, thank you so much that you have just brought something else, which I'm thinking about it now to ask you and then the judge a question, because it's something which is now in the mind that being raised by many. Maybe you can also maybe start answering advocate, then it's going to go over to the judge. Can money, gifts, or property received from sugar daddies create any legal rights or obligation under South African law? Can you start with that, advocate, and then the judge can then conclude or comment? Over to you, advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. If somebody said, I am buying a house for you, and normally they would have bought it in your name. If they bought it in your name, they can't come back and want to take it because there was that agreement that they are buying a house for you. But even if they didn't buy it in your name, if they come and want to evict you, you can go to court and say, I was in peaceful possession. However, the problem of peaceful possession, it doesn't prove ownership. The ownership is still that person's, so he owns the property. He will have to give you enough time for you to be able to pack your things and leave. He can't just come and kick you out at that time. Yes and no, you can enforce your right, but you need to have made sure that when he says, I buy this house for you, you say, buy it in my name. It's a gift. If it's a gift, he can't then tomorrow come back and say, I'm taking it away from you. But most of the time, they don't buy these houses in the names of those young persons. Those young persons enjoy using the house at that moment when the relationship is still on. When the relationship ends, most of the time, the person kicks them out.
Judge, you may proceed. Your comment on the matter, Judge. Ndata-san, you may proceed. Okay, to Tiamo, what currently now, on the discussion we're having here, you as a young person and at UCT and wherever you are, what are the implications currently now on the norms of young girls in society? And as a young man, how do you believe that we can change and interface the perception that sugar daddy is a wrong approach, but young people should rather focus on education? Over to you, Tiamo.
Thank you, Renyongani. I'd like to correct you. I am a second-year law student at the University of the Western Cape, not UCT.
You may proceed. Thank you.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, is that many young people do enter these relationships to seek financial support rather than love or companionship. So the root question, or the questions that we are supposed to ask ourselves, is why are young women and men entering transactional relationships? And as the advocate mentioned, and Mr. Errol, that we cannot always point back to poverty. It is a main factor, but we need to find solutions instead of just pinpointing what is at fault. So to answer your question, at university, most female students, as I would put it, have the sense of urgency or the urge to fit in with the rest of the students. So it's also a thing of peer pressure. If one person has an iPhone 17 Pro, the other student is also going to want a similar device or gadget that one student has so that they can fit in and be accepted into the social group or the social hierarchy in university. So what we can do at university is to tackle these issues by, we have a system at UWC, it's called it's Campus Wellness Center. It's where we go for counseling and therapy. So I feel like the psychology department there can effectively address the issues by hosting workshops for female students and male students to help them understand the dangers of entering into such relationships, the consequences, and the effects that it has on their academic journey. Because some students, you could find out that they fall pregnant and they'd have to drop out because who's going to take care of the child at home? Because either their parents are at work trying to make money to send to them so that they can have something to eat at university. So these are the issues that they can effectively address with the resources that they have for the students. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
No, it's fine that I think you've answered, because it's very intriguing that what you've just raised. And you do confirm that what Eric is also saying on the number of aspect as well, that it also reminds me that what Mapula once said before, sometime last year, if my memory serves me very well, she said basically that when we start looking into intergenerational sex as well, we look then into the norms and standards of society where we are. So I'm going to reflect this to Mapula today in a view on sugar daddies. You raised it last time, Apule. So today, that when you see what has been raised, what's your perception as a mother and as a grandmother and as an activist, seeing to me that the notion being raised here today by various speakers, how can we start giving empowerment to our young girls on making our own informed decisions, and how can we start taking our young girls to mentorship programs? Over to Mapule. Thank you.
I think she's also not, she's on and off. I don't see her with this telecom issue. I don't see her now.
Yeah, see, we all got the same problem this today as well. That and
Yeah,
that
no,
Nosi,
today we've got, yeah.
and that Nosi, to you, as a person working at legislature, as a pastor, and as a person also as a charity facilitator in society, how do you believe that from your side we can start empowering women and young girls through what you are doing as a man and as a father? How can the skill you give to them in your charity clubs become an empowerment tool to utilize to start getting rid of the notion of sugar daddy? Over to you, Norman. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. For especially from the other side, there sports activities. Rona, at our gym, majority of our students, it's girls, but they've recently, the number has changed a little bit because young boys have been brought in by parents, especially from an issue where maybe they are experiencing bullying. So now, from that angle, it's exactly like I've indicated before, with the different educational access and literacy area, Dira, because now we firstly teaching these young girls how to build their own confidence, and we're teaching them how to to have courage, how to speak up, how to defend themselves. So I think the most important thing is when we are addressing this thing from an early age, because that child grows with that concept. I do not have to doubt myself. I can defend, I can depend on myself maybe to achieve certain things. And one interesting thing that we have added at the gym is the issue of Thursdays, where we do check homeworks. We do not say that it's just the responsibility of the parent. You see what we are trying to show? We're trying to show that as a society, as members of the society, we must do whatever it takes to assist these young children, especially girls and young boys. The young boy also needs attention, but we need to put them in a space where they know that they on their own can do certain things for themselves, you know. And I've always I always use the example of Christ. When Christ was 12 years, it's indicated that he was engaging high priests and ministers in the church. They say he was engaging and he was actively listening. So when you take a look at the life of Christ at the age of 12, it says a young child at the age of 12, an average child can actively listen to every teacher or tsenang mo classing and be obedient by executing whatever is requested of them. If that child is able to follow instructions le mo classing, it means that child is capable of also following instructions le ko gae, because that is what we are doing ko karating. We say your behavior mo gym should be reflected le ko kerekeng. It should be the same behavior e re bonang when you are with your friends. It should be the same behavior. If re go rutile confidence, then you need to show confidence when you are amongst your peers. Don't doubt yourself. And then if we have taught you respect, we want to see you show respect ko gae le in front of a class teacher. We want you to show us that you can respect the minister who's standing in front of you. Because what we believe is that the manner in which we mend these behaviors, it's one thing. Today you are a 12-year-old child. Show me when you are 25 or 35, because how you conduct yourself at this age, it will reflect in your life at the age, at a later stage, how you deal. That is why, I mean, we've experienced that, Greg. Some of your peers, today, they might tell you, when they look at you, how far have you gone in life? They would say, if only I would have stayed in class, Greg, maybe I would have also been what you are doing now in the community. It shows that later in life, how we conduct ourselves as children, later in life, that thing comes to catch us up. It comes to haunt us. Then we tlhagelela yaka irresponsible fathers, we tlhagelela yaka irresponsible young men. It's because we did not want to be corrected. So that is basically what we are pushing kokarating, and that is also how what we are pushing in our sermons. We are focusing on this young age to teach them the importance of listening to older people. Ha ke itse ke go arabile sentle, Greg?
Thank you, Dr. Norman, that you have answered me. Osma Batu, this is something that I've written around in 2020 on my Facebook called Gender Cry. It was actually quoted by the YCLS, say that express concern regarding sugar daddies. That's the euphemism of sugar daddies. It is also called blessers, which is the same thing, and men are really trying to downplay the sugar daddy thing in this country. To some, it is just a glorified route of prostitution where one man will be attached to more than one wife, or rather an irresponsible stand pulled by men disrespecting their wives and children. Now, the question I'm going to pose to you as well, that because I know that you normally discuss this, and 2 years ago you once said the following: the vulnerability of our sisters should not be preyed on by older men with an unlimited appetite for sex, who then go to extra mile to get involved with the young women in exchange for money and little favors. Today, that this is what I'm going to raise to you. Are you still saying with the same statement, or do you believe that a notion which is currently happening in the country should be legislated, where it should be criminalized as an act of criminality in this country? Over to you, Mabato.
I think, firstly, going back to what Tate Mashimbi was saying, in the country, we do have an age of consent. Let's start there. There is an age of consent for children to have sexual relationships. Firstly, whether it's between children and children, there is age of consent. Now, this thing of having older men sleeping with children who by law cannot consent to sex. And we then see statistics that tells us that in Gauteng, this many children gave birth and the youngest was 10. But we don't see those men who slept with those children being arrested. Actually, as a nation, we are failing those children. We have been told in some communities that even the parents will be the one taking the children to these older men because of poverty. And I want to come back to what Tiamo says. Poverty, for me, poverty cannot be a license to sell your child. That cannot be a reason where children who legally cannot consent to sex, they are now being married to the older men because the older men are going to give the parents money. It's nonsense. I think if you remember, we're also saying we want to see almost a law, and I think Joyce and Dati Machimba will assist here, a law that will enforce, that will force clinics and hospitals for minors to get a DNA. Because when we were raising the issue with the children, that the Eastern Cape and the Gauteng children, to say, how does the law protect this young child who was raped at the age of 9? Because for them to give birth at the age of 10, we don't even know when that rape started. Those at the age of 12, all the children that could not consent to sex by law, we need to have a law that immediately they get a DNA from those children, so that they can link the DNA to the person who raped this child and be arrested. If we don't do that, this teenage pregnancy that we're talking about is going to be a challenge forever in this country, because the perpetrators know that they are not accountable and they will not be held accountable. Some of them, to the extent that they will just pay, whether it's a goat or a sheep, but by how do you hlawula a rape? Because that is rape. And then they give the parents a goat, they give a parents 1,000 or 10,000 rand. That ends on that day, while the child is a mother for the rest of her life. They are not taking care of this child. The expectation is that they must get SASA from government. Almost like the nation, our taxpayers, our taxes are the ones that are raising their children that they've made, not knowing that they're not going to take care of them. So I think we need to go back there. How do we, in terms of the law, how do we protect children from adults that might have colluded with their parents? Because if the parents have agreed and agreed this goat or this sheep or this 10,000 rand to silence them, how do we protect these children? By making sure that the perpetrator that raped this child is held accountable. And the law is the only thing that can protect them if the parents are failing them. I think for me, I still say these men must be held accountable, including the young men, because whether they are now youth, they are 30 or 20 something, if they've seen this behavior continuing and they slept with these children, these minors, they must be held accountable. And that for me will be a deterrent, because at the moment, there is no deterrent. They know that they can just go and continue sleeping around with these children. And when the children have children, they are not even taking care of those children because they paid this utla or whatever that they call in different cultures. So that maybe and any advocate on call in terms of a law that will protect children that their parents don't protect them. I think advocate Dr. Mashimbe's hand is up.
Okay, you may
Mabatu,
proceed. Okay, you may proceed. Okay.
Okay.
You may proceed. Thank you.
may I proceed?
Yes, you may proceed, Soraya. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you very much. Mabatu, you brought up something very important. There was a case that came to me on a Saturday, and I had to, on that Saturday, find the father because the father was not being allowed to see his daughter. I had to trace him in another area, go and visit him. He wasn't aware of the situation that his ex-wife, who had married, and her husband's brother was grooming her 9-year-old. And I had to take it to the police station, and the police wanted to know, where did you get the information? I said, I got it from, anyhow, they traced all the information, brought the little girl in with the mother's sister, who then wanted to deny that she told, she carried the message that came to me. But eventually, I must congratulate our justice system, because the magistrate listened to the father, and she thought this was about the father wanting to have access to the child. And I went in, I said, no, it's not about the father wanting access. This is about the mother giving this stepfather's brother permission to groom her child, because she says to the child, keep quiet, he's giving us bread and milk and he's paying for the roof over our head. She tried to cry crocodile tears at the police station when I was dealing with the matter. Thank God the father then was given access to this child. But this child had already learned lots of behavioral issues that his second wife had a problem with. So I got involved in all those things. But just to say, in 2008, when I had to go and face the drug dealers that their children were the ones that was using children in the schools to get money. You go and they had a house that the children would use for prostitution. The boys were gambling in the school, and that's the reason I had an arrangement with the school to say I'll do the M3 program. But unfortunately couldn't carry on because I had to deal with the matter in court to make sure they didn't get bail. The 6 syndicate members didn't get bail. Mabatu, these things are deep. And it was 2008 it happened, but you know how it is with Sawit. And it took me very long, up till 2022, to actually sit down and say, what can I do? And on the basis of that, Errol came to come and explain the Children's Act. And I knew Errol because of family matters that Errol had to deal with. So I learned a lot about what he does. But this is the crux of the matter. How do we look at parenting and children? And how do we, a 9-year little girl who was so good in school, that the teachers couldn't believe it, but the teachers themselves wouldn't listen to anything because the principal wanted to take the matter up with me. How could I do this? I was like, but you're a teacher, you're a principal, and your teachers told you there is issues with this little girl. They noticed issues, but you didn't take notice of it. So we as society, we can say, yes, I am fortunate I was raised by the village. I had lots of mothers. In today's age, how many do we have? One of our Sawidians, a child disappeared. She went haywire looking all over. When they found the child, the mother then accused her of interfering in her family life. The child was found with a sugar daddy because the sugar daddy gave this child a phone. And then the woman was, it's not your business. how do we as women, how do we as society, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but really, it is frightening what we're dealing with. And who do we blame? We can talk about the law. The law can just do so much. I work with the police. I work with the courts. I go and have justice cases and take up justice constantly. But at the cold end of it, one case in court, the magistrate said to the prosecutor, but did you do it in DNA? This taxi is now being accused as he's the father of the child. Did you do a DNA? And the prosecutors didn't go and do a DNA. They just thought, well, the mother says it's the taxi, so the taxi has money, so okay, fine. They did not do their due diligence in court for DNA to prove he's the father or he's not. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Okay, advocate. Advocate, you may proceed.
I don't see here. I think again it's on and off. Let that machine go ahead. The machine beer, you can go ahead. I think it's again Joyce is out.
Judge, you may go, you may proceed. Now, I think that what Soraya have raised, so Osmabatu, when you start looking at the Children's Act, it's very clear that, yes, a case can be opened up on one of the regulations that even the matter will be reported and people can be held accountable to the matter. Now, when you start looking at the notion of sugar daddies as well, that a lot of parents are not aware that they can be charged criminally for allowing their children to be sold for sex, and never day that. But what if also pick it up as men, we pick it up that some of them are being raped by these men because no consent is given to sex as well. But it's still engaged because they're getting money as a transaction. Because when you start looking at transactional sex as well in South Africa, it's a huge market which is there, and it becomes a big problem as men. How do we deal with these aspects and syndromes then where we face in society when it comes to it? You have raised something very profound as well, that we have to pay in Kaule, whatever you may call it, damages, whatever you may call it. But the question is that on a conscious level, do you accept money where that you know that as a mother, as a father, as an uncle, you must have a conscious what you're going to do, because you want to justify a wrongness which is a crime. Rape is rape. A lot of these young girls are being raped. But we think that because I got an X5, I got an X6, I'm bringing groceries, it's not wrong. I think as men today, I think it's time that we should take the system on. The nonsense happening of this should be ended. Where we see that women are being killed, women are being poisoned, women are being HIV positive because of this, it cannot be correct anymore. There are laws in this country and there are judgments in this country. Unfortunately, I have to bring two names up now as well, which we have to raise a controversy about it. May their soul rest in peace. The matter of the deputy president, the late deputy president, where it also something raised eyes. The former leader of the Coke Party, also similar scenario was also raised eyes on asset claims as well there. And many other cases in this country which have been kept under the carpet. The someone we call the tiger in newspapers as well, as a sugar daddy, being a very older person as well when it comes to it. But what we need to raise today, as men, let's talk, we are saying that we don't support this wrongdoings in South Africa. We believe that people must be charged criminally and charged for rape. Some leads to extortion as well. I'm going to lead your pictures to the media, to social media, you have slept with me. And this cannot be correct as well, what a notion of sugar daddies have done in society. We need a policy framework to be developed by government. And they're afraid to take this because it is men leading these committees and leading these policy discussions. I think it's time that the Women's League, political parties must start waking up and raise these issues in their committees. It can't be allowed anymore, and it should not be allowed anymore. And I think it's time that the church and that the Norman must come on board.
Yeah.
Because the church is very silent on these matters as well when you need to do. I don't know what's your view on the matter, Osma Batu.
You know, more often than not, or in a situation it's up, no, more often than not, we're speaking to victims. And speaking to victims does not stop the challenge. We need to hear a loud voice every day at the workplace, at churches, Kodi society, Kodi taverning. You know, it has to be almost like for a man to go out anywhere with a young child as a girlfriend or a mistress, whatever, that they know they will be shunned because their peers would call them out. So we want to see a movement, not only from the Men Let's Talk. Men Let's Talk must now get other networks, whether it's Busonke gender justice, all other men's movements must be speaking in one voice, really to call those men out and make them feel that actually they are less than, if they think having these young girls and as trophies, that makes them less than, that masculinity, that they're thinking it's about being a man because they've got all these many girlfriends, that actually that does not make them men. So if we don't have a movement by men calling this behavior as disrespecting to manhood, as really making them being less than, it's going to continue. That you're having your millions does not make you a man now by having more girls. Yes, we know that we've got a challenge in the country because polygamy is still it's accepted. But then let it be them marrying, following the customary marriages act. They will be marrying because they've got a consent from the first wife. We need to make sure that this behavior is not acceptable. But at this point in time, it is acceptable because men don't call it out, especially when it's people with money or people with positions of power. They are left not called to order. It will not stop, just like violence by men against women. It is, we continue speaking to victims, and when it's men with positions of power, we don't talk about it. We know that. I like talking about the tiger, but it has been there in the media. People have been talking about this politician, this minister who has been having girlfriends, but it's not been spoke about. Now, Deputy President, that many a times when these men die, that's when you see all these things coming out. But they have been doing it even when they were alive. Now, but because they're dead, and people and these women now are fighting for these properties. Others are saying, now we're married in community of property. That time the person has been out of the home for the past 20, 30 years, or 10 or 20, whatever years. You know, I had that session when I was talking about fighting for a dead man. that if a person leaves you for 10, 15, 20 years, now that they are dead, you find the wife wanting to fight for the corpse. A person that left the home while they were alive, now you want to fight the corpse because you want what is due to you. And I was saying, what is due to you has nothing to do with the dead person. You can still legally get what is due to you because you've got a contract. Let them be buried wherever they are because they didn't want to be with you when they were alive. So why are you fighting for the dead body? And you thinking you're fighting because of what is due to you doesn't change because they are dead. And that's what we're saying every time. When there is Mobango, where people are fighting for a corpse, is because they are fighting to bury this person who divorced themselves out of the family and raising up their children. And now that they're dead, then people are fighting for the dead. We have seen even a pastor in KZN where they were fighting for that a dead body. To say, why do we do that? Because when they were alive, men as brothers, as friends, as peers, failed to call that behavior unacceptable. Hence these challenges. I saw Joyce's hand was up, but also that machine you can go ahead after Joyce.
Okay, Joyce may proceed and fine. You may proceed, Advocate.
Thank you very much. I think Mabatu has addressed some of the things, but I think to emphasize or add to what Mabatu said in terms of we don't expect the victim to be the one that is fighting, but everybody community. I just want to make an example of the toll gate. No, what do they call them? The toll on the way between Joburg and Pretoria. Because there was money, people fought government and won against government. They stopped it. So even for issues of gender-based violence and the sugar daddies and all those, we need people to litigate in court. It needs to hit them in the pocket. Because it doesn't hit them in the pocket, they continue doing it. But if we can sue them for the pain, for the humiliation, for the suffering of the young girls, we can go against 2 or 3 of these most powerful that have money, and we win against them. The others will just be afraid to do that. So the pocket, if we can hit the pocket, because the problem is the pocket, because they have a deep pocket, they have money, they think they can do whatever. But as soon as somebody starts hitting the pocket, I think they will then know that we mean business. Now we're just talking. We talk, we go to programs, we go to wherever and talk, but we do not hit their pockets. As soon as we hit their pockets, they will start getting their act together. I think that's what I wanted to say. We need to mobilize. As Mabatu also has said, that we bring all these other organizations, your Sonke and all the others, but they need to come with money also, because you need money to litigate. I think it's also time that we bring private sector so that it contributes to this act, because destroying young persons is also destroying their employees, their future employees, and their future innovation and creativity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Advocate. That in the same breath, that also summing up, and then from there will be Tiama. After Tiama will be Mabata. Over to Dr. Norman. Monapule Nosi, over to you.
Sorry, but my mic was off. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you on that day.
Yes. You know what I'm picking up here is that we as ministers and priests have an important role to play, because we are
Yes.
actually the trusted voices in many communities and many families. So it means that our leadership role, we're supposed to play it in such a way that it must help to move the necessary conversation. You know, we move it from blaming and silence, we move it to compassion, prevention, healing, and practical support.
Yes.
Because, you know, faith communities, they are able to support HIV prevention, especially amongst young people. But by participating through these health awareness programs, by being involved in the sexual education, by partnering with other stakeholders, and you know, and having this being involved in human and financial resources for these things. But the most important things, it means that we need also to change our way of preaching. Instead of preaching on shame, we preach rather on dignity. That we should rather
Yep.
teach every person that every person has a God-given worth, including those who are living with HIV, young women who are vulnerable in a vulnerable relationship, and families that are affected by poverty. Because the message should basically be that we should assist to reduce the stigma and encourage people to seek assistance without fear, without being judged. And I think also the church should also radically and actively provide young people. They must provide that dialogue amongst young people, the dialogue amongst women in the church, amongst the men's forum, and they must provide that counseling space where issues such as this transactional relationship, the gender-based violence, the power imbalances, the condom negotiations, HIV testing, these things should be discussed openly and respectfully. And also, we should not distance ourselves as the churches from the health professionals. We must partner with the health professionals because by working with clinics, it means that by working with these clinics, organizations are able to give an accurate HIV information. They're able to you know, to enhance their testing campaigns. They are able to do correct treatment referrals. They're able to support members of the congregation within the community. And then the last thing that I would speak about would be on as ministers, that it's also our responsibility that we must speak clearly against any form of exploitation. We must speak against abuse, and we must speak against older men who are using money to control young women. We must also teach young boys and our peer men, our counter, our fellow men in the church, teach them about the respect and the importance of consent and the responsibility, as well as about healthy masculinity. Because I remember it was Mama Batu, she mentioned, what did she mention about when we were talking about masculinity? Or masculinity is supposed to be linked to taking responsibility to look after Batu Baba Bashebileng wena, who are looking up to you. And it means happy, we need also as a church not be afraid to walk into the families tse di affectilweng ke HIV. Tse di affectilweng ke some of these things that we are currently discussing. We're supposed to be encouraged to you know, encourage for to take treatments. We are supposed to assist in you know, in prayer sessions. Good family in Tsewa. We are supposed also go assist with family reconciliation. Mo go na leng this rift e diragala, and you must take care of the families by are members of our congregations. And I believe that in this way, as ministers, we will become more, we become more than the preachers. We can become more of advocates, counselors. We become bridge builders, and we are seen as people who are able to protect the vulnerable. So we need to combine by combining our faith practices and the compassion that we have and the accurate information available, as well as the practical community action. It's one community. We can curb the scourge of these things already, you know, and stop the abuse of economic power from those who are using it against the vulnerable. Baie dankie, Greg.
Thank you so much. Judge, you may follow. Judge, you may follow. Okay, if not, then before it's about to, I think as men, let's talk that we are basically saying that there are clear issues that we need to understand today in terms of the role of women could play in society. But we are condoning the abuse of men, and we're also condoning the abuse of women. But we don't support the notion then of sugar daddies. We believe that sugar daddies should be criminalized in South Africa, and a policy for them needs to be dealt with in a way they should be dealt in their pockets. We also believe that accountability should be the notion of all men in South Africa and in Africa as well. We can't allow anymore that this sugar daddy issue to be helped around because a lot of young girls are being exploited. A lot of young girls today are staying with babies because a number of foreign nationals have left the country due to not having passports or legal documents in South Africa based on sugar daddy. A lot of young girls today are HIV positive in South Africa. Some don't even know their fathers and are ashamed actually to raise them where their fathers are. We have increased in the burden of SASSA in grants because of sugar daddy. So we're saying today that men should stop doing what they're doing. It's completely abuse of women, and some are rapes happening in South Africa. Nobody should be allowed to be a tiger, and nobody should be allowed to be doing what it needs to do, irrespective of your position in society and irrespective of your position in government. It's time that as men, we should name and shame and expose these men doing this. It's time as men, we should take those men on to court and they must feel it in their pockets and start paying what they need to do. It's time as men that we should start launching class actions against the men who are exposing, affecting, and infecting these young girls. We need to open up cases for attempted murder on HIV and AIDS if there's no consent.
Yeah.
If it's rape, it should be rape and should be charged for rape. That's the position of Men Let's Talk South Africa, Men Let's Talk Africa. We are not turning back. We are saying an injury to one is an injury to all women in South Africa. We can't allow this to happen anymore. We are saying today, tomorrow, and next year, we're not going to change. As a jiggy, we're not turning around. We're saying that it ends here today. Over to you, Osbabatu. You can sum up. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Men Let's Talk movement. And I think on Dade Mashimbe is there. Dade Mashimbe, before I go unmute yourself. You're still muted. Unmute yourself. You are still muted and he's speaking so passionately. I can see the hands. Datema Shimbie, unmute yourself. Can I help? Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can unmute him. I can't. I can unmute him and he's speaking. Datema Shimbie, do you see my hand? Unmute yourself.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
technology. Yes, yes,
Hello.
yes, yes.
You can hear me now.
We saw you. You were passionately speaking with your hands.
Yeah. Now, there are two
Yes.
that I have to submit the following. We have got common law punishment and statutory punishment. Now, in order to give effect to what we have been discussing today, let us feel free as organizations like this one to make submissions to the government. First, to look into the effect of the current common law punishment following upon rape, together with the possible death and whatever. Number two, it's the one of Sexual Offences Act, that is the statutory punishment. Are we satisfied with the type of the sentence or punishment in terms of the Sexual Offences Act? If we feel we are not, let us be free to formulate and submit what we feel will be in the interest of the country. That way, we shall be able to look and check those responsible for this transmission of the HIV to innocent youngsters, as well as those who rape directly. For instance, the issue of maintenance of a child born from the rape following upon the the daddies as against the sugar babies must also be included in the punishment that follows upon the common law offense. So it will be the case in respect of the one on a statutory level to say upon conviction on a charge of statutory rape, this should also be included in order to deter those responsible for such. That way, in my view, will assist the country in maintaining law and order. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ntate Mashimbe. I mean, we've got a responsibility as a country to now also, yes, I said, Joyce says we need money to take these cases to court, and he was giving an example of Outer, that ultimately that organization managed to stop even the toll gates, the Gauteng, but it's the money that they need. So if we come together as a nation, different organizations, even if your R1 can assist really in taking government to court and changing some of these laws. When she says the people will stop if it hits them in the pocket. Now, if it hits them in the pocket, but also it hits them legally, where they know that I might end up going to court. So we really, I totally agree with you. You know, we continuously say the church seems not to understand the power they have of having this community every Sunday. Others have the community twice every Sunday. Others meet on Saturday. Others even meet during the week. A community that if that community is changed and that community become the advocates to go out and change others, we will have a different South Africa at the moment. Whether it's the church, is the mosque, there are people that continuously go there. And if they all speak from the same script, men and boys will have different behaviors because they know that they will not get away with it. If the schools also, the teachers continue with teaching reading from the same book around gender equality, around responsibility, around dignity, around respect, around boundaries. It should not be something almost like you can only do it because you belong to. It has to be the values that we want to see in our nation, and that you cannot have children that you do not want to take care of. You know, I didn't watch a Madlanga commission. We're talking about it with Joyce and others, to say one of the reasons for Mkwanazi, who wanted for bail, that he's got 9 children. And you ask yourself, you have 9 children, are you taking care of those 9 children? I know what Joyce says. Actually, before they were granting bail, they should have asked the mothers of all the children, those 9 children, is he taking care of you? Because men have 9, 10, 11 children by name, but they don't take care of them. And they have them because it's almost like you can tick a box. You've got these cows in the crawl, but they don't even know what those cows eat. They don't even know how much is the school fees. They've never been to any school meeting. They've never supported the children for their sports. So they are just sperm donors, not fathers, because they're not parenting those children. And it's only men who can change that. To say to them, don't come and tell us about 9 children. Do you even know when has your child gone to the clinic? Are you there? Are you present in the life of your children? You can't be present with 9 children. There is no way. You can't be present even with 3 or 4, because sometimes you ask your partner to say, I'm in a meeting. This because school activities require parents to be there. But if you don't think that it's your responsibility as a parent to go and support your child, you should go to children's activities and see how they are happy to see their parents in the seats there. They will want to wave to say, can you see me? So you've got 9, they all have activities in the same day or in the same week while you are employed. That's not going to be possible. So we're really asking for men to really say to other men that being a father means to be there every time. When the child needs to speak, to talk, you must be there to listen. But you can't listen if you are not in their upbringing, and you are only in one family, but you wanted to have all these children. And that's around masculinity, because toxic masculinity says you can have many children, but it does not matter whether you take care of them. While positive one says, be a parent, be a father, let your child know that you are there to take their hand and walk with them. When they fall, you are there to raise them up. Because in that way, they know that they can trust you as a parent. So I think this is what, besides us talking about sugar daddies, we need to continue talking about parenting. And we had a session again with Men Let's Talk around being a father, that being a father is not just being a sperm donor, it's your presence. We spoke also with, as part of Men Let's Talk partnership, around addressing the issues of blended families. Because also in blended families, there are the challenges that we are speaking about, that somehow you must be present in your children's life while now you are in another person's life, and now you've got your own children, but then as partners you also came with your own children, whether they are there physically in your home, you do have children. How do you make sure that you support those children? And the children that you have now in your marriage should not replace your life when you're parenting with those that don't come from the union that we have. And these need not only the women to speak about, it needs the men, and it needs the church to be the one to lead in the pulpit. There are so many, I mean, the Bible talks about life itself. So you are able to preach from the Bible in terms of responsibility, in terms of the role of the mother, the role of the father, and the role of the community in supporting children and families. But I think what was important for today is around the issue of sugar daddies, and I like that machine be talking about sugar babies. And last week there was an issue that was raised by Dr. Poppy, the Premier of Limpopo, around sugar mummies and women losing their pension. We did again in our Freedom Thursday have a session around it to say to women, can you not lose your pensions that you have worked for others for 40 years? Because we start working at the age of 20, others even more than 40 something years. And now when you are about to enjoy the fruits of your labor, comes a young man and tells you that they love you just to get your pension. I was still going to respond. I saw yesterday another older woman lost her 2 point something million pension because they were robbed by these young people, or even, I was saying, even older people now have learned that, okay, this one is going for pension. I might not have enough pension. I'm going to go there and talk to them that I love them, knowing that I only want a pension. And they come with all these crazy business ideas. I've got a business and I have got 1 million, but this business needs 2 million and it's going to make money. So if you can just support me, all of those are bogus businesses just to get your pension. That you can get involved in any other relationship, but let that relationship not involve your pension money. You are not a bank. If they want to have investment, let them go and get money from the bank. Now that they've got 1 million, it's easy to get a money from the bank, not your pension, because they are scammers out there. And every day we are reading about a woman that has lost a pension, or a woman that has now in a mental hospital because of depression, because they've lost their pensions. So can we use our head, not our heart, to deal with the issues of finances? Because ultimately, that pension that is supposed to be assisting you, and you might get your pension at 60, and the Lord might make you live until you are 90 or even 100, while you just lose it like that, and you'll not have a pension to look after you. I think that is important, that we, again, that gentlemen use the pulpit to educate your congregant, for them to know that they are people who are praying on older men and women. But the cases that we are seeing are women. However, there are also those that are preying on older men to get their pensions. So preach that in your churches, preach that in your synagogues, preach that, talk about it in your mosques, so that people know that there are people who would want your money. So if they're starting a business, bless that business, but let it not be your finance that is going to finance that, let them go to the bank, because they are scamming people. And unfortunately, the majority of the cases that we are seeing are are about foreign nationals. Some of them we'll see is really witchcraft, because people will say, I don't even remember me signing. However, they've signed their monies and the monies are gone. Some we also said we're thinking they're working with people at pension funds, because how would they know that you have gone on pension for them to even pursue you? Many of them, they've been pursued in the year of the pension or months after the pension. So there should be someone who tells them that they have now gotten their pension funds. So let's continue raising that awareness. And as I say, we've got institutions that have people, and some of those institutions now have a lot of people that they are mega churches. So let's use those platforms to raise awareness, to educate, and ensure that ultimately we have the South Africa that we want, where our children are protected, our children are allowed to be children and not turned to wives or sugar babies, and not just let them play. You know, children are not allowed to play. Can you imagine a 10-year-old child having a child? They have not even been allowed just to play dolls and mimic life before they've been turned to mothers and left for almost, can you imagine a mother who is older, who's 9 years older than their children? So it's children raising children. And we're surprised when we see all these challenges that we're having as a country, because they can't raise those children. They also need somebody to raise them. So we really are looking forward to continue partnering with men's movement to change what is happening in our country and holding those men accountable for their actions. Before we close, I think you all know that we've got a campaign where we're calling a 26 weeks for 26 reasons for women and youth to raise their hands to lead the coming local government elections. We are now on week 10. And being on week 10, we continue raising that awareness. Before we start with the week 10, I mean, I'm going to go and do a 20 minutes, 30 minutes session on week 10, but I continue saying, because there are people who came only for the sugar daddy issue, so that we will close properly that session and then just raise the issues now that are linked to the week 10. In our week 10, talking about financial management and corruption. We are saying, wherever you are, if you are in the community and you are a leader, this is the area also that we need to continuously raising, even at the church, to say, yes, we know that political parties have failed us. We are now in this mess as a country. But if you still believe in your political party, we don't say to people, don't follow your political party. We're saying, if your political party does not prioritize you as a citizen, does not prioritize your street, because the elections that are coming are local government elections. If your political party does not prioritize the street that you stay in, the address, which is your home, where you every day you go, you wake up in that home and you go back there and sleep. If that party does not prioritize that address. You can talk to the leader, your community leader, whether they are in the church or whether they are in villages. It will be the chiefs, the indunas, or community-based organizations, the leaders, that when something happens in your community, you all run to that person, that they can stand up as independent candidates because they have been anyway doing that work in that community. We are asking that you can stand up as an independent community for the coming local government elections, and the people that you have been providing service, when there's a funeral, people go, they run to you. Auntie Bibi, in your community, everybody come. You are almost like you are paid, and you're not paid. You are people, when there is a death in the community and they know that that family cannot bury, they all come to Mesor so because they know that she will make sure that she gets money for that family to be buried. If there are orphans in the community, they know who they go to take care of those. This is the person that you need to go to now and support them in the coming local government elections to stand as independent candidates. And you know why it's important? Politicians now will know that your vote matters. They will not take your vote for granted like they have done in the past 32 years. They know that you can withdraw your vote and give it to somebody who will take care of your needs. In some communities, people have been jumping sewages in their streets. It's 3 years, it's 2 years, others it's 4 years already. That nothing has happened with that sewage that they've been jumping because people didn't think that this time will come and you'll hold them accountable. Some, they've been having piles and piles of debt and everything where people are throwing their dead sicknesses, and rats are in the community, and they know that nothing has pushed them to remove those garbage at the corner. So if they know going forward, they've seen it in the last national government. That's why we've got a government of national unity, that your vote is no longer a given. You can withdraw your vote and give it to somebody else. Even with the coming elections, you can now give it to somebody who has been taking care of you. You have been still sitting in the community without lights for the past 5 years. The potholes are like, now it's no longer a pothole. It's almost like a sinkhole. But you do have ward councillors, you've got councillors. So that's why we are saying young women, young men, and women, local government is where you live. You can stand up as a independent candidate. Ma'am Bibi, I'm not sure whether I was closing on this one. I saw you open your camera. Maybe you want to say something before we go into the issue of week 10.
Yes, thank you, Sis Mabatu. When it comes to the local government, there has been so many problems of intimidation and what have you. So I'm hoping that at least Busisiwe Linda would be willing to stand to be a ward councillor. But I've already been warned that I mustn't place her life in danger.